Okay, everybody. This is Ranger Gabe here, returning with a quick little video on Highlander, the card game, 2nd edition. This will be basically focusing on getting new people into the game. First off, wanted to give a shout out to the Blood of Kings guys who have the Facebook group, and they also have a podcast. It's at Blood of Kings POD. Shout out to them. They do great work as far as helping the community grow, covering primarily 1st edition, I would say. So I'm not really stepping on their toes here. Also, I want to give a shout out to Jim Richards. He currently has the market cornered on the secondary market for these cards, especially 2nd edition. He's a great resource for that. He has tons of 1st edition, but I primarily focus on giving him props for all his 2nd edition stuff. And also, definitely, last but not least, Mr. Sager, Mike Sager, who came up with the Swordmaster system and currently has Versus decks on sale right now online on eBay. Definitely reasonably priced. I would definitely check those out. Just type in a search for Highlander 2nd edition and they should pull up right away. So now that those formalities are over with, I wanted to give a shout out to Michael Jones on Facebook. He's recently come out introducing himself to the community, saying, hey, he's looking to start up a group. He's got a lot of Magic players and some DBZ players locally who have their following, but he's trying to figure out how to get people into the game. And we had a little bit of back and forth as far as my recommendations on how he should go about it. He's definitely the mindset of having people get in on a lower cost by getting some 1st edition stuff, because you can still get a lot of those boosters and starters from the very 1st edition basic set dirt cheap online. And I guess his mindset is to have those people come on in and buy some cheap cards, just get to learn the basic mechanics, and then after that, see if they want to go into 2nd ed, because that's primarily where most of the current competition is in 2nd ed. So, his first concern, I kind of went through his posts there, and he had 3 different points that were pretty poignant, so I wanted to bring those up. First, Type 2 entry is high. Because like I said, you could get a box of boosters, I think, for like $9 on eBay for the core set from 1st edition. So, you're maybe looking at $20 total for a box of boosters and maybe a few starters, if that. And right now, 2nd edition, my recommendation would be to get a generic set, which I think runs about $50 through Mike Sager on eBay, and a Versus set, which runs about another $40. So it'd be about a $90 investment to get in on that side. So I can definitely see that point. That is definitely a valid point, Michael. But when you think about it, I play other card games too. I mean, anybody who plays Magic or anything is not going to scoff at $90 to get started in a game. Especially when you're looking at it from a living card game standpoint. With those 2 sets, you're going to have enough cards to pretty much be competitive, because the generic set has a lot of the meta cards that will help you survive some of the harsher strategies in the game. But at the same time, a Versus set is going to give you versatility of 2 Immortals and at least some basic cards for their weapons of choice. So you'll have at least some choice there on your deck construction. I don't think it starts you off very bad, but that's honestly not a bad investment. It kind of depends on where you want to go. If you want to start a local group that just plays locally, everybody just kind of gets together maybe once a month and plays a tournament with whatever cards they happen to have on hand, and that's your goal, great. Players of Highlander are always welcome regardless of whether they play 1st or 2nd edition, if that's your goal. If your goal is to get a group that can get into the current meta, the current cards that are coming out, compete locally, and even if you do a tournament once a month like we do here, at least be able to be up to speed and capable enough so you could go to maybe Gen Con or a larger event and actually, have your guys compete and stuff like that, then, that's definitely a way to go as well. Most competitive players, especially if you're bringing them over from the Magic world or from DBZ, that's what they want. They want to compete. They want that competition. So it kind of depends on what your people want. You, being the local tournament director, can kind of determine how you want the tournament set up, either Type 1 or Type 2. And there's plenty of resources online as far as card rulings, errata, stuff like that. But that would be my recommendation, is to find out where your players want to go or how you want to approach it. Second point you made was that the Versus decks could not compete against a standard constructed deck. I would say that's about 50% correct. There's some of the newer Immortals that have come out recently, especially like Kyler, and I'm suspecting Amanda, are going to be pretty competitive right out the box. I've also heard some pretty broken things about the Nick Wolf deck that comes with Amanda. So I kind of, it's a toss-up right now. I would say they can compete. We had a Versus Sealed event back in the spring at our regional event here in Omaha. We pretty much just bought a bunch of Versus decks from Jim, and we just kind of split up the Immortals. So everybody got one Immortal out of a deck box, and we all kind of just went at it in a sealed format with some booster packs from second edition, and that was a blast. Everybody loved it, and I think we had a ton of players there. It was pretty awesome. But it's 50-50. I think a good Versus deck put together by an experienced player could probably compete in a tournament. The only problem might be that you don't have the assortment of cards. Third topic, you're kind of at a loss where to start. You were asking for any thoughts on where to get started. Honestly, at this point, I think the game badly needs a core set, and I think I've mentioned this in some of my other videos. With a core set, if the company were to put it out, kind of along the lines of the generic set, but better. Maybe have players vote online to what they think the top meta cards are that should be in there, and then just print up a set that gives you pretty much a full play set of everything you might need in order to compete right out of the box. And maybe have it start with a generic character, maybe one of the generic Immortals, or have it just start with Duncan MacLeod or Connor, one of the two. And just have it be a core set that people could buy for maybe a $50, $60 price point that would allow them to compete right out of the box. Honestly, that would put them on par with other living card games, such as the Fantasy Flight games, like the Star Wars game, the Arkham Horror game, the Lord of the Rings game, the Game of Thrones game that Fantasy Flight is putting out. They're just pumping out those living card games, and they usually have about a $50 price point to get started. So that would be nice if we had something like that we could go to new players and be like, here, buy this, you got everything you need to get started, and just let's go to town. But that's not an option right now. So I would definitely say make the investment yourself if you're really into the Highlander world, like I am. I honestly was buying second edition before we had a play group here in Omaha. I would go and buy singles and rares and certain characters just to start building my collection because I love the Highlander universe so much. But I would definitely go ahead and, for yourself, buy the generic set and the Versus set, one of the Versus sets, to get yourself started. That $90 investment, I know it can be kind of hefty right out the gate, but, if you make the commitment, it'll hopefully spur on your local players to make the commitment. And if you still want to go the $20 route and get everybody some cheap booster boxes just to get them started in the game, that's great. And then just keep your second edition stuff off to the side. That's fine. But honestly, if I were a new player coming into a game and I was told, hey, let's buy some of this game, it's really cheap, $20 to get in, get started, great. And then I decide, oh, I really love this, I really want to play this game. And then suddenly you tell me, oh, okay, well, there's a second edition, which is currently in production. You can get into that with me. That's what I really wanted you to get into. But now you're going to need to make a $90 investment to get into that. Then I would feel like I wasted $20. That's my only sticking point on that. But it's up to you how you want to approach it. If you want to start with second edition, I would do that. Do the $90 investment. And then on the side beyond that, or maybe you might want to do this first, contact Jim Richards. He has a ton, and just buy a ton of commons. He'll have a ton of commons. You know, you could probably get them for like a dime a card or whatever, or a nickel a card. Buy a whole bunch of sets of basic attacks and blocks from him. Some generic cards like Police, Misfortune, Get Away From It All. Those types of cards. Lean and Mean, Edges, you know, just a bunch of little generic cards just to build up your stock quick. And, you know, that might be real cheap. That might be maybe $30 to buy a whole. You know, you could probably get maybe 200-300 cards for that price from Jim, especially if you make a combo deal with him. He's always willing to work with people. He's a real cool guy. If you need, I could send you a list of what I would recommend for a bunch of commons to just basically get started. And then there's always partial sets available. I know Jim has some. If not, maybe I could contact our local play group here in Omaha and be like, hey, who's got some partial sets for certain immortals that they just want to give away? I'd be willing to put a care package together and just send it to you, because I know some of the guys have larger collections here, and we always have extra stuff for extra immortals that we really are never going to use. That's giveaway stuff. So we could definitely try to put together a care package and just send it to you. You know, even if you get a Persona card with, you know, just a few of their basic cards for an immortal, that might be enough to build a deck, at least just to get to know the game. But here's the concern I have. If you look carefully here, second edition, this is the Slan Quince Persona, and it's those gems there. Those gems there in the middle of the card that gives the stats for the character. That's the biggest difference between first and second edition. And that might be somewhat of a learning curve, and it gives an extra level of strategy that more complex or advanced players like Magic players or DBZ players might be into, is the fact that they have those limitations on deck construction. Because you have your Master Gem, that's how many Master cards are allowed, and then the rest of the gems are multiplied by 3, well, at least at these first second edition cards. So in this case, Slan has a 2 in agility, which is the next one. So that tripled equals 6 cards. So he can have 6 cards with the agility gem on them. He can have 24 strength cards, 24 toughness cards, 6 empathy cards, and 5 reason cards. So that there might help attract more advanced players that might be a little more able to get invested into a game like this. So I would definitely start out with second edition, because that extra level of strategy could help bring players into the game. So that's my 2 cents. Again, Michael, I wish you the best. I will try to see if I can get a care package from Omaha put together for you. If you want, you can just message me on Facebook and get me your address so we can send you some stuff. Otherwise, Jim Richards is a great resource. Maybe he could put together a package for you, just a bunch of generic stuff that you might be able to get for a good package price from him. So, That would be my recommendation. Otherwise, it's a great game, great system. I'm not sure where you live, Michael, but definitely get in touch with me. Maybe you come up for one of our tournaments to get a better feel for it. Maybe bring one or two of the guys that you're thinking of getting into the game. Even if it's just one of our monthly events, it would definitely be fun to meet some new players. Or maybe we could come up to where you're at and give you guys a bunch of stuff. But that's pretty much all I have for this video. I'll be coming out with a whole slew of stuff here in the next week and a half leading up to Thanksgiving. So definitely keep playing, keep spreading this game, and remember, above all, don't lose your head.